name is Piotr Savsky from Emmanuel with Corazon Puro. Coming to you from Missionary Formation Week Retreat. With me, I have Holly from Corazon Puro. Welcome, Holly.
Thank you, Peter. Good to be here.
Holly, is there anything you'd like to share with us about yourself?
Well, I'm originally from California.
Awesome.
Born and raised over there, but moved out to New Jersey and was blessed to accidentally, with God's providence, stumble upon the very first Corazon Puro meeting in 2008. And I had a youth group at a time, and young adult group, and I started bringing them there and just got involved. And it's been a tremendous blessing in my life.
Yeah. So right now we're in Missionary Formation Institute, this week-long retreat for missionary work. Can you speak on how the Missionary Formation Institute has helped you follow Christ?
Missionary Formation Week is a tremendous blessing. It's an intense formation of all different aspects of our lives.
Mm-hmm.
There's wonderfully rich content in spirituality and theology, but also in psychology and in practical life skills. How to run a meeting, how to prepare your finances, how to communicate, how to listen effectively. And so it has really helped in my speaking skills. It's helped in just developing relationships, and also the community aspect and being supported by the friars is tremendously their witness, their example. Being in this community, we have 70 people from all over the world that are on fire, and we got to go to heaven. Like, we got to bring everybody with us. Like, it just engenders this missionary zeal, and I'm so grateful.
Nice. And are you participating in this retreat, or are you leading something?
I'd say both.
Okay.
And the way I am one of the speakers and the coordinators, but this is my maybe 5th Missionary Formation Week that we've been leading. And every time, the Holy Spirit always has something new. Yeah. And God, in his generosity, always has something for us. We think we're going to help and to serve. And I learned so much from them. I'm just really grateful.
Could you speak about one of the talks that you gave during this retreat?
So one of the talks was called The Communication Between Men and Women, and it followed upon the men receiving a talk on the masculine genius and the women on the feminine genius, and this was to bring it all together and then to talk about our communication skills. So understanding our differences is really important. We have an underlying assumption that we're often unaware of, or at least I am, that everybody should be like me, right? And it's terrible if it's self-centered. But really in our culture too, we were looking at a little of the history of feminism and, the cancel culture was what I thinking of. And it used to be that women were somewhat denigrated, in the culture in a great way. And now with feminism, there's been a sense of, at least there's either sex identity, which is to say that both sexes, men and women, are exactly the same. There's no difference. You can just switch body parts and you're the same. And then another view would be contrasting to say one is better than the other. So in some cases, it's been men better than women. Today, we're in a place where women are considered often better than men, and men are now the second-class citizens and are blamed kind of for everything. And then there is another viewpoint that was called sex complementarity. And this is to say that men and women are complementary towards each other, not like, hey, you're looking really nice, complimentary, but that they help each other to image God. And we talked about a philosopher named Sister Prudence Allen, who goes a little bit deeper. And because sometimes with sex complementarianism, they will look at people having just particular roles, and like women have to do these things and men have to do these things because they complement each other. But there is this aspect that if we're made in God's image and likeness, that each men and women reflect God in a beautiful and unique way, but then the communion of the two reflect God in a more full way. And so we need to learn from each other. So it's not to say that women shouldn't have any masculine genius or men shouldn't have any feminine genius. And for example, the person of Jesus Christ, of course he's God, but even as man, he has tenderness and nurturing and the things that might be considered typical to women. He was fully feminine and masculine in that sense. And ultimately, that's what our ideal is. And so Sister Prudence Allen talks about an integral complementarianism. And so that's something that integrates both. And it shows this dignity for each other to say, like, not that you're doing it wrong and you should do it this way, but rather let me learn from you. And we can learn from each other. Yeah. And even in our differences, we learn to serve each other. So men tend to not like things when they're very hot, and women are always very cold. And this is a way that we can support each other and sacrifice for one another. And also just in the communication, understanding that men need time to process things and women process things out loud. And it was really fun because a lot of people, like all these light bulb moments, like, wow, why didn't I know this? And it's true. Like, as I was learning about it, I said, we got to share this. This is skills that we all need to know.
Absolutely. We had another interview, I guess would be the word. Leo, she said it like basically that like man and woman is like two sides of one coin, and that we need each other, and like you're saying that it's like complementary, that it's one cannot be without the other in a sense. That's what she was saying. That's fascinating. And then moving a little bit further is, so you helped write some of this, right? The Missionary Institute. How have you seen it, I guess, benefit the young missionaries that have gone through the retreat, have gone through the institute, have like survived the week?
Survive is a good word. And it's beautiful. They're today on Sunday so full of joy. You would never guess they're sleep deprived and eating rice and beans and sleeping on the floor. Like, it's just beautiful. Yeah. I have seen tremendous benefit. I mean, just immediately seeing the joy and the communion that they have forged with one another, that sense I'm not alone. Yeah. And the faith is really alive and it's relevant. But also looking at the fruits from missionary formation. Right now they're having their action plans. So they are forming together by region and discussing how are we going to implement what we have learned in our areas, whether it's in their parishes, in their groups, or if they have a Corazon Puro affiliate, what are they going to use to form their leaders in that way? And from that has sprung up new affiliates. For example, Corazon Puro in Orange County, California, came from someone coming here and saying, I need to take this out to California. Same thing with Northern California. Yeah. And that's really beautiful. I even remember one of the girls from Indiana, I believe, Indiana or Michigan, a few years back. She had formulated an action plan where she wanted to start just a young adult group and form their leaders. And she wrote up an action plan and she took it to the local diocese, to the bishop. And she said, I would like to just start this in our area to have a young adult group. And they loved her action plan. They said, do you need a job? And now, no, I'm sorry, it wasn't at the bishop. Forgive me. It was at St. Francis University. Yeah. It was at a university, and she thought that would be a great pool of getting young adults. And they just hired her.
No
so
way.
It's incredible.
There we go. That's awesome. And to kind of speak, I guess, back, right? So that's like the effect of it. I want you to go into a little bit in deep why this was created. Why was there a need for this? You know what I mean?
Great question. I mean, this is really the vision of Father Agostino. And so as a priest, as a father, as a pastor, knowing the needs of his children, really good provider. Part of it really stems from the fact that, we're serving predominantly the Hispanic community, though we have people from the Philippines and Switzerland, and it's wonderful. But there are a tremendous lack of resources in the Hispanic community. And so recognizing that we need to be able to form that need because this is the growing demographic in our country. But also seeing the breakdown of the family. A lot of the life skills that used to be taught in the family are oftentimes missing or lacking, or even in families that are together and yet particularly in areas of greater need, maybe both parents are working several jobs and they're just not able to give those skills to people, to their children. Yeah. And so financial literacy, for example. We see so many great young adults who are on fire for the Lord. They want to spread the gospel, but they don't really have the tools and able to do that effectively. And so there is this need, and in our church, to be able to run things well. I think of where our Lord said, we need to learn from the children of darkness, because the children of light sometimes don't use the same wisdom. We need to be wise as serpents and innocent as doves. And so there's that sense that we need to help form them to be effective the way the world is effective.
Yeah. I know Father Agustino is very big on meeting them where they are. Like that saying, he keeps saying, like, we have to meet them where they are. We have to meet them where they are. And that's kind of what you're saying, right? Where we need to kind of prepare them to go into the neighborhoods and the countries that need us, right? That need these like missionaries.
Yes, and I would say to form them, to form their people. So, we're here in the Bronx, and we're teaching theology of the body. And even a very well-educated person can pick up John Paul II and say, what is he saying, And so Father does this whole talk, maybe he spoke of it on Bronx translation. And cool. We do exercises where they'll throw out a word for the catechism, and it's just very lofty. And then we'll say, okay, now Bronx, translate it. And they'd be like, well, I think he'd be like saying that. And they'll just break it down in a way that a kid on the street, Father would say, if you cannot explain it in a way that a kid on the street in the Bronx can understand, then we need to rework it, because we need to make it something that is receivable and will change hearts.
But that's true, because I feel like, especially, for me, English is my second language. So like even hearing some of the words, I'm still learning them. And I'm also sometimes like, what does that mean? How do you use it in a sentence? Like, how can we so I 1,000% agree with that, right? And that was also one of the original reasons why the Bible started getting translated, right? In different languages. It's to reach those people that, let's say, they can't go to church, or they're in the street and they want to read it or something, and it's created to help the masses, right?
Yeah.
Meeting them where they are, right? So moving forward, what are you passionate about? Both, I guess, in regular life, but also in spiritual life.
Well, as a missionary, they're sort of combined, right? But I am passionate about just our faith. Like, it's such a gift. It really is such a gift. And, when I am in community, especially with Corazón Puro, but just seeing how people come alive. Like, I want that. I want to be holy. And they help me to realize, I got to get it together. Like, these kids, they're having like opposite readings at 6 a.m. and they're in silence, and they got rid of their phones and all of these things just freely. And it's beautiful to say, like, well, what do I need to get rid of in my life? Like, how do I need to be more detached? How do I need to be more on fire for Jesus? And then really just to bring that to others. And I'm really grateful for the opportunity.
Can you, because I've heard a lot of people talk about the detachment, right? Of detaching of things and kind of seeing that benefit. Can you speak on how that benefit, I guess, comes to fruition for people?
Yeah, because we're a Franciscan community, I really love the way St. Francis looks at detachment. And there's all different ways. Ultimately, it's separating ourselves from things and even people and good things so that we can be closer to God. But rather than the negative, I think the St. John of the Cross talks about the nada, the negative, like the nothing, like nothing but God, which is beautiful. But maybe in my weakness, Francis is everything. And so he's basically, it's the same, different side of the coin, but if I have my God and my all, like, I don't need anything else. And so for me, at least psychologically, instead of looking at it like I need to have less and less of that, I need more of Jesus. And the more that I am clinging to him, the more that those things sort of naturally fall away. But we want to be free. And especially in our society and our culture, we're just so filled with anxieties and worries. And we long for freedom and we long for love. But these things get in the way. So it really is a sense of becoming more free.
Okay. Yeah, thank you for clearing that up, because I feel like, especially throughout these like podcast series that we've made, a lot of people are talking about detachment, but I feel like a lot of people have not like gone into like why maybe our viewers should be trying to be detached from things, or maybe why the benefits, like it's always like a good thing, right, to get detached. And it's been like a pop culture word now, like, you know, like let go of everything. But it's like, why? You know, what is the essence of why are we doing this? You know?
Yeah, and if I, just to add that there's a difference between like the minimalism and
Exactly. Yeah.
detachment, and I think in some ways minimalism, well, it's a good thing and a practice, but it is a little about me. Whereas detachment is to be free so that I can see the other. And for example, all of the young adults have freely given their phones at the beginning. A lot of them, what? But so many of them have commented how that you can keep it. You can keep it. I didn't realize how I'm just constantly checking for my phone. They went into the Met after they did the theology of the body in art, and then they went to the Met Museum, and they were like, I was just going to take a picture. And I realized so many things. I have all these memories on my phone that are not memories in my mind. And now I've just said, I'm just going to be in the present moment and enjoy this. And they said, I have so many more memories, so much great. And I noticed people walking down the street. I noticed the poor. I was more aware of the person next to me. And so freedom makes space for love. And that's the thirst of our hearts.
Yeah. That is what we desire most, right? That kind of, and Father Agostino spoke about it, where love, and I love the definition he used, because I never really kind of thought of it that way, where it was like, to love is to love openly and to love without worry of injury or worry about like getting hurt. And I was like, wow, because people you love will eventually hurt you or they will lift you up, but it's like you have to be ready for everything to love openly. To move a little bit further, how do you, I guess focus within the Missionary Institute, how do you promote spiritual development within the candidates or participants rather?
So there's several, like there's a track of workshops and also in what we do on spirituality. I mean, part of the promotion of it is really just living it. And so the opportunity to enter into the prayer life of the friars, so they're praying for 4 hours every day, and you're able to enter in. They have daily mass, they have daily holy hour, they have an hour of silent meditation. We teach them praying with scriptures, Lectio Divina. They're learning how to pray the Liturgy of the Hours, and they don't have their phone apps. They're actually having to use the breviary. So that's like a whole skill in itself. And there were talks on Franciscan spirituality because you were a little bit partial.
Yes.
But then there was a talk on spirituality and comparing to other forms of spirituality. We actually had a Carmelite priest come in and give a presentation there. It was fantastic. And we even had a workshop on how to set up for liturgical events, learning to set up for Mass, learning about what the altar cloths and what they mean, and how to set up for adoration. We had a music workshop that was led by now Father Isaiah, but Brother Isaiah's, has his music and everything. But he gave a whole presentation, but it was about intimacy. He called it creating intimacy through music, and most of it was really about our prayer life and going into that secret place and how Jesus meets us in our wounds. So it's a thread that's just through everything. Yeah. And the hope is, we really challenge people to not just find place for prayer in your life, but to have a prayer schedule and find place for work and community and everything else. Yeah. And so if you put God at the center, God first, like everything else falls into place.
I like that. I think that's something that we as a society in general, or we as a people, like the entire world, that's where we get led astray, right? Where we don't make that time, that we think like, I'll squeeze in a rosary here, or I'll squeeze in Mass here. And it's like, well, let's change that a little, right? Let's work around that. Because at the essence, like, maybe that's why people are so run down and so down and so, depression and everything is like running rampant, right?
Yeah, I remember reading a quote, I think it was from St. Padre Pio, and he said, the reason you're so tired is because you're not silent. I was like, that was a good
mic drop.
Exactly.
That's good. So, with a heavy heart, I have to ask the final question. Why is it difficult to remain faithful to God?
It's difficult because I'm a sinner. I mean, at the end of the day, I'm the problem.
Yeah.
Like, it's nothing with him. But I think, part of the difficulty is in our tendency, in our brokenness, in our concupiscence, to want to hide, and we turn to self-reliance. We're in a culture that says, you've got to figure it out. You've got to do you. It's all on you. And even as Catholics, even raised up in the faith, we are influenced by this. And I am more than I realize, And then when we do fall, we make our mistakes. And then it's just the utter shame. I mean, it's a spiritual battle for sure. But I also think, this isolation that becomes normalized with technology. And technology is good. We're using it for great things. But isolation can be very, very dangerous. The need for community, we're not meant to do it alone. I think that's the Franciscan way. It's just like, we're trying to like stumble up to heaven together, and it's a big party, but we're going to get there. And without times of prayer, as you were mentioning, Peter, it's impossible. It's absolutely impossible. Like, we need him to do it in us. And I think most of the spiritual life is really about letting go and just saying, okay, God, it's just showing up. If I just show up, then you're going to do everything else. And that's where we just become, little children again, trusting that the Father is so eager to give us the kingdom that we're just not aware of his goodness.
But like you said, in that silence, we see it, right? If we're in the hustle and bustle, we miss that kind of those moments and opportunities, right?
Yes.
Holly, thank you for everything. Is there any last thoughts, ideas, prayers you would like to leave with our audience?
If you're listening, I just want to encourage you. God is so good, and he loves us so much, and he has plans for our lives. Jeremiah 29:11, he says, I know the plans I have for you. They are plans for good and not for evil, for a future full of hope. So I encourage you to find out about missionary formation. Come. We would love to receive you wherever you are, wherever you're from. We are all a hot mess. So if you're a hot mess, come and join us, and the Lord will do wonders with our mess. The Holy Spirit is wind and fire, and he's messy, but it's okay.
Amen.